Good day and welcome to another week of a week at the plot, and the realization yesterday that my labelling has been completely amiss this year. These 4 tomatoes on the right here I've got labelled as Isle of Wight Yellow, and I've been talking about them being Isle of Wight Yellow. I've sometimes said that they were black crim. Then I've corrected myself to say that they're Isle of Wight Yellow, and actually yesterday I realised that they are in fact black crim. So I'm going to be harvesting these today because they can ripen well at home. And I don't know why I've got my labelling so wrong this year. I mean, maybe I just didn't care enough, maybe it was that. But I was sure that these were Isle of Wight Yellow. Yet if we come over here, look at these. That one in the middle is clearly an Isle of Wight Yellow, and I think the one down here is too. Yeah, they're clearly yellowing up yellow. So I think we found which are which. I'm actually going to be doing quite a lot of harvesting because I don't think the top trusses where they are developing have a lot of energy going into them. So if I take off these lower ripening fruits, hopefully that will allow more energy to go into the top of the plant, so that these trusses here hopefully will be pollinated and they can start producing fruit. These are a Roma variety, but I think these are from our plot neighbour, so I believe they're actually a Eastern European variety, can't remember which, but clearly that is Amish paste. You can see from the sort of big egg shape that it's Amish paste. But yeah, some of these need a bit more tying in, and everything needs water. I mean, it needs water every day at the moment, and I watered relatively early yesterday, Sunday morning, and clearly they need another water now. I did quite a bit of deadheading yesterday, and I also tied up in fact, let's just go up there. These 10 tomatoes at the front here are all cuttings that were rooted, whether that be in water or into hormone rooting powder, then into individual pots, and they have grown quite well. They went in a week ago, and yesterday I basically what did I do? I put the stakes in next to them and I tied them in, and I then cut some of the leaves off. Some of these are already producing flowers, which is absolutely fine. But let me just take you back to putting the stakes in and back to me tying these up. I did take some video. This is our bed of dwarf beans. 2 rows of flat French yellow, 2 rows in the middle of rock and core, and the rock and core are developing, look, rather nicely. We'll be harvesting some of those, well, very soon. This side, oh, and over there are borlotti, everything is beginning to show itself now. So look, there's beans, and I'm not sure if you can see, if I put my hand there maybe it'll focus, you can see the colorization on here, green with slightly red stripes. That's borlotti. So those are to be just left, and these are to be eaten as a pod bean. And we do have, these seem a bit slower, but there are beans developing here. You see that one in there. As I say, these are flat French beans. They're yellow again, but very different to the rock and core. Where the rock and core is round, like we've just seen here, these flatten out. Oh, and there's a bit of bindweed in there. Better take that out. Yeah, but these are doing okay. They need a water. Everything needs a bit of a good water, really. Well, I do have a harvest of early potatoes, dug out rather late. There's one here which must be a throwback to last year. Can't remember what variety this is. I do wonder year on year with what I spend on seed potatoes and what we get out, whether it's worth it. I'm not sure whether I'm a good potato grower or not. I mean, these will taste fabulous, there's no doubt about it. But you know, they've been in a long time. They took a lot of work to do. They cost money to put in. They've been fertilized. And would I have been better to have put carrots in this bed? Carrots I'm usually all right with, and that's what I'm going to sow soon, i.e. this week, in this bed. I'll need to prep it a little bit more first and give it a good rake over, because yeah, it needs more work on it for carrots to grow in here. But yeah, I just wonder, is it actually worth it for me to grow potatoes? If I took out of the equation that these potatoes are going to taste amazing, then it most probably isn't worth it for me to do it, and I would get more bang for my buck from a packet of Autumn King seeds than a set of potatoes, seed potatoes. Anyway, when I am doing this bed tomorrow or the next day or whenever it is this week, I'm sure I'll find another 20 or so potatoes in here. So I'm sure this will be added to. Clearly this is a yellow tomato, so this is the Isle of Wight yellow. This whole bunch, this one as well, it's looking very much like it did last year when I saved seed from it. And I don't know what variety it is. I've just called it Isle of Wight yellow because it came from the Isle of Wight in one of their fruit boxes. It could be, I mean, it could be any yellow tomato. It's not on the website as any particular name. These here are Roma style, but these are I think they're Croatian, actually, these. And then these are black crim. Very characteristically black crim from the tomatoes we've had before from black crim. So yeah, pretty happy with that. There was some cat facing ones here that were facing together. but they'll ripen and they'll be fine to eat. So yeah, relatively happy with that, and hopefully the fruits that remain, which some of which I will be harvesting over the coming days, in like 3 days time or something, hopefully the fruits and trusses further up the plant will now have more energy to start producing fruit. And this is the final courgette for a while as well. Our courgettes, all 6, have gone into a bit of a lull, so fingers crossed that that lull doesn't last long. Quite an okay harvest of potatoes, but yeah, is it financially viable? Most probably not. And a really decent harvest, first harvest, well, second harvest actually. I've most probably harvested about 10 tomatoes or across 3 or 4 trusses so far, but they've all been relatively smaller ones, i.e. the Roma type variety. So to get some of the bigger ones is really good. The Amish paste is also developing pretty well, but we'll have a look at that another day. That's a duck egg variety. It's quite large fruit, duck egg, because it's a duck head shape, you know, so yeah. Anyway, I am going to leave it here for this first segment of this week's A Week at the Plot. And I do need to do some watering, so I'm going to do that. Might water myself first, though, from the pub across the road. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. 2 more cuttings. These were side shoots of or several tomato plants that I did quite late. As you can see, they're about 2.5 foot tall, maybe. They've gone down by about another 4 or 5 inches into the soil than they were at the level in the pot. And because we're due some really strong winds in a few days, instead of what I normally do, which is let them buffet in the wind for however long, a few days, a week, gently strengthening the stem, I've decided to put 2 canes in and tie them into the cane. This one here I'll tie in maybe on Sunday. It's now Friday afternoon. I'll tie it in further up on Sunday as well, I think. We'll see how it goes. But the others are doing okay. These tomatoes in this bed are all from side shoots, and some are already flowering. One I can see has got a fruit already set on it, so that's great. But as with all things, I need to do a look at them because I can see several. I'm taking my gloves off so I can do this. Several have already got side shoots, so I'm going to take those off. You go away for a few days and come back, and the rocket has decided to send up lots of flowers. So I'm deadheading it because I want to keep this rocket going as much as I can, in terms of obviously harvesting it as a leaf. It's a salad leaf. So if I take the flowers off, it will, well, I think what it will do is it will put more energy into the flowers forming again, but at least I will continue to get further harvests, because we rather like our wild rocket as this is. It always confuses me that this is wild rocket and the other one is salad rocket, because it feels to me as though it should be the other way around. But yeah, I'm just hoping that by doing this and taking these flowers off, I'm elongating the period of harvesting leaves. And where I can see, like there, where I can see flowers developing, I'm nipping those off too. I mean, you won't, when it's this size and this prolific, you won't get all of them, but at least it will go some way to elongating our harvest. I do actually have, though, more on the bench as seedlings that need to go in, and I think some will go into this bed and some will go outside. I mean, there's so much to harvest from here. It's quite slow growing, but once it gets going, it really does get going. Right, I'm sure from your angle you can see more flowers or more coming, but that will do. And then of course, you know, you just go in and take the leaf off, and that's your harvest. Gosh, so peppery. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Some more there. Oh, and what, I've got a weed there. Let's take that out. Today I am doing some successional sowing. We have had beetroot being successionally sown for maybe 3 months now, 4 months possibly, and I'm doing another sowing today. That is going to be Chioggia, which is exactly what we have growing outside already. 2 batches or 2 sowings are growing outside. One I'm harvesting from every other day, or one of the batches I'm harvesting from every other day, and the other one, they are now getting to the size of sort of large marbles, so they're beginning to grow well as well. So I want to have another set which are going to be grown, just switch this, in modules. I want to have another set of modules sown so that they can go in relatively soon, in 3 or 4 weeks. I'm also going to be sowing some, did I say they're going to be Chioggia, the same as we've done before? Petrowski turnips, which is a slightly yellow turnip. I'm going to be sowing some of these again into modules, so that's good. And we have a lot of lettuce growing, but in here a lot of it is becoming is already going to seed, so I will be taking that out. We don't have any other seedlings left, so I'm going to be sowing a mix of 3 types: a Romanesca endive, lettuce Lollo Bionda. We've got some in here and some out there. Interestingly, the Lollo Bionda outside are doing better than inside, and a rosy endive as well. So I'm going to be sowing those 3 salad leaves. I'm going to be sowing them into a pot. I'm just going to be mixing some of the seeds together and sowing them in a pot, maybe 20 seeds in total, and we'll see how many seedlings we get from that. So that's what I'm doing. And then finally, I wasn't going to do any more brassicas, because we do have perennial kale to go in. We've got Taunton Dean to go into a bed. But you know what? I so love the Cavallo Nero style of brassica, and of course our own Portuguese cabbage. But I've decided that instead of sowing our cross of those two, I'm just going to be sowing Dazzling Blue Kale. And these will be sown into little modular little seedling trays. These are half seedling trays. I like pricking things out. That's what I've decided. I like pricking things out, and that's why I'm not sowing the lettuce and these into modules, because I really enjoy that process of pricking things out. So I'm going to get on and sow this seed. The sun is beginning to come out, as you can most probably see. So I'm going to get on and sow the seed, and then I'll be back to you once I have done it. I was just remembering that I haven't sown modular sown turnips on camera for a while, and all I'm doing is sowing sort of 3 or 4, sometimes 5 in each module. And just like the beetroot, well, different to the beetroot, because the seeds I sow here, each seed will only produce 1 plant, because beetroot is a sort of modular. There's lots of seeds clustered together. With turnip, which is a brassica, there's just 1 seed. So where, let me get a beetroot seed out, where one plant will come off a seed of turnip as long as it germinates. When you have a seed, let's go in, let's see if I can get this. When you've got this seed here, you'll most probably get several plants off that, because it's a cluster of seeds, but not all will be viable, which is why we modular sow 3 or 4, just like we've done with the turnips here. I thought, as I had the camera set up, I might as well sow the beetroot as well. Just tamping down the compost underneath there, just taking my gloves off. I love sowing seeds with my bare hands, much prefer it than with gloves. So try and space your seeds out. So yeah, these here are little clusters of seeds, where the turnips, I hope I explained, are individual seeds. But not all of these will be viable. What I'm hoping for from these is maybe 3, 4, 5 per growing per module. Need a few more in there. Need 1 more in, well, 2 more in there. Fine. Put those seeds away. Back on with my gloves. Little press down. I know you've seen this before, but I think it's always worth showing again. Compost going on top. Tamping it down. Tamping it down. And then of course a water. But what I've decided to do with my, not sure if you can see that there, don't think you can really. I decided with the Dazzling Blue Kale I was going to put it into a pot as well. So I've sown the lettuce here and the Dazzling Blue Kale here. And as per usual, what happens now? A water. I'll let that soak in, and then I'll do another water in 30 seconds or so. you might not be able to read, but I put labels in now. Chioggia beetroot at the back, turnip Petrowski at the front here, and then over here is the mix of lettuce and the Dazzling Blue Kale. I've left some water at the bottom so that the compost can soak up from the bottom as well, but I've given them a really good drenching at the top, as you saw. Back to the bed where I harvested potatoes earlier in the week, and having had quite a bit of rain since then, I'm going to give this a really good fork over, tickle the top maybe foot, and give it a good raking, because I hope to be sowing some carrot seeds in the next day or so. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. It is Saturday afternoon, and yesterday when I was down, after I did the work that I was going to do, I did continue on the potato bed that we harvested from. I gave it a really good forking over. I harvested again another 18 potatoes, I think it was, and then I raked it and I leveled it off with my rake. And I did think at the time, I wonder if we'll see any brush action going on overnight. So Brush is the male fox, the son of Fenella. He's still around here every now and again, but I don't really see him very much. I've only seen him once this year, I think. Anyway, sure enough, came down just now, and that bed had been dug up. There was fox action in that bed. It's what he does. He loves a sort of freshly made bed and then comes along and sort of scrabbles it up a bit. Fox action, I think, rather than cat action, because cat action is a little less aggressive. Anyway, I have leveled it off with my rake again, and then I used my hoe to put in 5 long drills, 5 long rows. The drills, I suppose, about 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres deep, something like that. Then in 3 of the rows I put Autumn King carrots, and in 2 of the rows I put Amsterdam Forcing, which are a fast growing carrot. I thought I'd do that because A, I had the seed for Amsterdam Forcing, I didn't know I did, and B, I had less seed of the Autumn King than I thought I had. So I thought if I do the Amsterdam Forcing, which grow quicker, fingers crossed, they will be able to be harvested earlier than the Autumn King, so that will give the Autumn King time to grow on, as long as they don't get scuffed up too much by a fox. So anyway, after I'd done that, I then sowed the seed very thinly using my fingers. Don't want to do too much thinning, and if I do thinning, I think I'll use the Vivi method of cutting off with scissors. If I need to do that, we'll see. You'll see me do that. And then with the hoe again, I pulled the soil, the compost back over the seeds, leveled it all a little bit. It was all pretty level anyway. Leveled it at the edges, and then I gave everything a really good watering. And I decided to use one of the Enviromesh pieces of netting that Vivi gave me earlier in the year to cover that bed. It's sort of weighted down around the edges, it overlaps, and I'm just hoping that if Brush comes along and decides to lay in it, then it won't do too much damage. You know, I just hope that is the case. And then if he decides to really grub up the netting, then maybe that will do more damage. I don't know. But you know what? I'm giving it a go. I've sown some Autumn King. I've sown Amsterdam Forcing as well. And actually, when I was editing this whole A Week at the Plot this morning, I thought, you know what, you've done quite a bit this week, Paul. That's really good. And it's really good because I was feeling my mojo was beginning to drain away. So I'm really pleased that I was able to get on and do all of that work yesterday and do this little bit of work today. There's other things that I need to do, including pulling up Sankfoil by hand. I think I'll get on and do that tomorrow. There's a bit of weeding and a bit of other tidying that I need to do. I think something has happened football wise or cricket wise or whatever. That was a roar from the pub. They have sports there. So yeah, I'm pleased with what I've got done this week. Next week we will need to get in the Taunton Dean perennial kale, because they need to go in. And again, I think I'm going to be using some Vivi, maybe Vivi tunnels for those to put in so they don't get pecked by pigeons, because I am noticing things are still being pecked by pigeons, including chicory. You know, our wild chicory here, which is pretty bitter, but they're enjoying it. Fortunately, they haven't found the chard yet, so fingers crossed on that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here for this week's A Week at the Plot. Any comments, any questions, please do leave them down below. Any suggestions, of course, as well, please let me know. And whatever is happening in your garden, your growing space, or your allotment, I hope if you're feeling that that mojo is beginning to get away from you, try and get down, try and get into your growing space, do some work, and I'm sure that will pull that mojo back into you and reinvigorate what you are doing. Right, I'm going to leave it here. See you very soon. Happy growing. Bye.